Kendrick Lamar announces new album and Iceman response dropping very soon to insiders. The phone call came in just after midnight. No warning, no build-up, just a name, a location, and a situation that didn't make sense. By the time the first video hit social media, it was already too late to control the narrative. Sirens in the background, people shouting over each other, a body on the ground but nobody willing to say exactly what happened. And within minutes, the timeline started breaking apart. Listen, this wasn't supposed to go down like this. Hours earlier, everything looked normal. Same people, same energy, same routine. Nothing in the footage suggested tension. No visible signs of an argument, no obvious threat. But now everyone's telling a different version of the same story. Some are saying it was targeted. Others are calling it a setup. And a few, they're not saying anything at all. Here's where it gets strange. The first reports didn't match what witnesses were posting online. Details were off. Times didn't line up. And then certain clips, key moments, started disappearing as quickly as they surfaced. Accounts going private. Posts getting deleted. Felt less like confusion, and more like something was being cleaned up in real time. But the biggest question wasn't about what people saw. It was about what people knew and didn't say. Because when you look close, there's a gap. A window of time nobody's really explained. And in that gap, something happened that changed everything. Now the spotlight's on everyone connected to that night. Friends, associates, even people who weren't there but somehow keep coming up in the conversation. And the more you dig, the less clear it gets. Because this isn't just about one moment. It's about everything leading up to it. And right now, the truth isn't missing. It's being buried. Everything traces back to earlier that same day. The energy was calm, at least on the surface. The people involved weren't moving like anything was about to go wrong. No heavy security presence. No visible tension. Just a routine link-up that, by all appearances, felt normal. But when you slow it down, when you actually pay attention to the details, there are small moments that don't sit right. Conversations that cut off when cameras get close. Certain faces that look more alert than relaxed. It's subtle, but it's there. The central figure in all of this isn't new to pressure. Someone who's been around long enough to understand how quickly things can shift. Built a name, built a circle, and more importantly, built a reputation. The kind where people either respect you or stay out your way. And that matters because in situations like this, reputation changes how people move around you. It affects who shows up. It affects who stays quiet. And it definitely affects what happens when something goes wrong. Now, the location itself plays a role. This wasn't some random spot. It's a place tied to history, both good and bad. People know the area. They know what's happened there before. So when word started spreading about what went down, it hit different. It didn't feel isolated. It felt connected to something bigger, even if nobody could explain exactly what that was yet. Earlier footage shows a small group forming. Nothing unusual at first. People greeting each other, phones out, music playing low in the background. But then you notice how certain individuals stay just outside the main circle. Not fully engaged, but not distant either. Watching. Waiting. It's the kind of body language that only stands out after the fact, when you already know how the night ends. And then there's the timeline. This is where things start slipping. According to some reports, everything unfolded within minutes. Quick. Sudden. No time to react. But others, people who claim they were nearby, are saying it wasn't that fast. They describe a buildup, a shift in energy, voices getting louder, movement changing. Nothing physical yet, but enough to feel like something was coming. That difference matters. Because if there was a buildup, then people had time to see it, time to respond, time to step in or step away. And the question becomes, who chose which? Some names keep coming up, not officially, not confirmed, but repeated enough that people are starting to pay attention. Individuals who were seen earlier in the day, people who left just before things escalated, and others who arrived late, right around the time everything changed. The sequence isn't clean. It overlaps in ways that don't fully make sense. Here's the thing, nobody's giving a full account. Every version feels partial, like each person is holding back one key detail. And when you line those versions up side by side, you don't get clarity. You get gaps. Gaps that shouldn't be there if this was really as straightforward as some are trying to make it sound. Even law enforcement, based on early statements, seemed cautious with their wording. Not rushing to label it. Not confirming motive. Just acknowledging that something serious happened and that they were looking into all angles. That kind of language usually means one thing. They don't have a clear story yet, or they're not ready to share it. Meanwhile, online, it's moving faster than facts can keep up. Clips are being analyzed frame by frame. People enhancing audio, trying to catch background conversations. Freeze frames pointing out who was standing where. It's turning into a digital investigation, but without structure. Everyone's looking, but not everyone's seeing the same thing. And in the middle of all this, there's emotion. Real emotion. Friends reacting in real time. Some in disbelief. Others already sounding like they know more than they're saying. Posts going up, then disappearing. Messages that feel coded, like they're speaking to someone specific without saying names. When you step back, one thing becomes clear. This didn't come out of nowhere. Whether it was building for hours, days, or longer, something led to that moment. And the people closest to it? They're not just witnesses. They're part of the story. By the next morning, the story wasn't just local anymore. It was everywhere. Social media picked it up fast, and once it hit that level, there was no slowing it down. Clips started circulating that hadn't been seen the night before. Different angles. Shorter cuts. Some with audio, some without. And each one added a new layer, but none of them told the full story. Instead, they raised more questions than answers. People online moved quickly to fill in those blanks. Timelines were being built in real time. Users stitching together posts, screenshots, and eyewitness comments, trying to create a clear sequence. But the problem is, when everyone builds their own version, the truth starts to split. One theory says this was planned. Another says it was spontaneous, something that escalated too fast to control. And then there's a third group that believes something happened earlier off camera that set everything in motion. Here's where it starts getting complicated. A few individuals who were present that night began speaking out, but not directly. No full statements. Just short clips, vague captions, and quick live sessions that felt more emotional than informative. You could hear frustration, confusion, even fear. But every time things got close to specifics, the conversation shifted. Names weren't being said. Details were being avoided. At the same time, others connected to the situation went completely silent. No posts, no reactions, nothing. And in situations like this, silence speaks just as loud as words. Because when something serious happens, people usually rush to clear their name, or at least acknowledge what's going on. But here, some of the most talked about names weren't saying a single thing. Then came the contradictions. One witness claimed there was no argument before things turned physical. Another insisted voices were raised for several minutes before anything happened. A third said the tension had been building all day, not just that night. These aren't small differences. They completely change how you understand what led to that moment. And then there's the footage that people can't agree on. One clip shows a figure stepping into frame seconds before everything unfolds. Another version of that same moment doesn't show that person at all. Some are saying it's editing. Others are suggesting angles just didn't capture everything. But a few are pushing a different idea, that certain pieces are being intentionally left out. Now check this out. A specific video started gaining attention because of what it didn't show. There's a clear gap, just a few seconds, but it's enough to matter. Enough that people started asking what happened right there. Why is that part missing? And more importantly, who had access to that footage before it was posted? That's when the focus shifted from just the incident to the people controlling the narrative. Because in a situation like this, information is power. Whoever shares first shapes how the story is seen. And whoever stays quiet can avoid being pulled into it, at least temporarily. Meanwhile, fan reactions are getting more intense. Some are defending certain individuals without hesitation. Others are calling for accountability, even without confirmed facts. It's turning into sides being picked before the truth is fully understood. And once that happens, it becomes harder to separate real evidence from personal bias. A few independent voices, people known for breaking things down carefully, started pointing out inconsistencies. Not accusing, just analyzing. Highlighting how timelines don't match. How statements shift depending on who's speaking. And how certain details keep getting repeated, even though they've never been confirmed. But even that comes with risk. Because the deeper you go into something like this, the more pressure builds. Messages start coming in. People telling you to stop digging. Others pushing you to go further. It becomes a balance between finding truth and knowing when you're stepping into something bigger than expected. And right now, that's exactly where this sits. In between confusion and clarity, there's enough information to know this wasn't random, but not enough to explain exactly how it unfolded. If you're following this closely, make sure you're subscribed because it only gets deeper from here. Now the pressure starts building behind the scenes. What looked like confusion at first begins to feel more controlled. Certain voices get louder, while others disappear completely. And when that happens, you have to ask who benefits from the noise and who benefits from the silence. Because at this point, it's not just about what happened that night. It's about what was already in motion before anyone pressed record. People close to the situation have started hinting at tension that didn't start that evening. Small issues, old disagreements, situations that never fully got resolved. Nothing officially confirmed, but enough to suggest this moment might have been the result of something deeper. Listen, this is where speculation starts creeping in, but it needs to be handled carefully. Some people believe this was targeted. Not random, not accidental, but something that had intent behind it. They point to the timing, the location, the way certain individuals were positioned before anything even happened. But there's no solid proof of that. Right now, it's just a theory being discussed, not a fact that's been established. At the same time, another perspective is gaining traction. That this wasn't planned, but it wasn't clean either. That emotions got involved, things escalated, and once it crossed a certain line, there was no pulling it back. According to this view, what we're seeing now, the confusion, the missing details, that's not about hiding a setup. It's about people trying to protect themselves after something went too far. But then you look at the behavior afterward, and it complicates both sides. Because if this was completely spontaneous, why do certain actions feel calculated? Why were some people quick to leave before authorities arrived? Why did certain clips get removed almost immediately, while others stayed up just long enough to spread? There's also talk about communication happening in the background, calls being made right after the incident, messages sent before anything hit the public. Again, nothing confirmed. But multiple sources are suggesting that people connected to that night were already trying to figure out how this would look before the full story even surfaced. And that brings another layer into this. Image, reputation, control. Because in situations like this, it's not just about legal consequences. It's about how you're seen. One wrong detail, one misunderstood clip, and everything you've built can shift overnight. So the instinct to manage perception? That's real. Now here's something else that stands out. A few individuals who were initially vocal have started pulling back. Statements getting shorter. Responses becoming more guarded. It's like the tone changed once they realized how serious this actually is. And that shift usually means one thing: legal advice is involved. When people stop speaking freely, it's often because they've been told to. Meanwhile, those analyzing the situation are noticing patterns. Not just in what's being said, but in what's being avoided. Certain names never come up. Certain moments never get described in full. It's consistent enough that it doesn't feel accidental anymore. Feels selective. But here's the line that can't be crossed. We can't turn assumptions into conclusions. There's a difference between noticing patterns and declaring guilt. And right now, a lot of what's being discussed lives in that gray area. Strong possibilities, but not proven realities. Still, when you step back and look at everything together, the timing, the reactions, the gaps, it's clear the situation has layers. More than what's visible on the surface. More than what's being shared publicly. And definitely more than what's been confirmed. The hardest part is this. The closer you get to the center of it, the less people are willing to talk. Not because they don't know, but because they do. And whatever the full truth is, it's sitting with a small group of people who were there when everything changed. And right now, they're not ready to give it up. And then something shifts. Not a loud announcement. Not a clear statement. Just a detail, small at first, that starts pulling everything into focus. A new clip surfaces. Not widely shared at first, but enough people see it to start asking different questions. It doesn't show the full moment. It doesn't explain everything. But it changes the direction of the conversation. In that footage, the timing looks different. The spacing between people isn't what earlier clips suggested. There's movement that wasn't visible before. Someone stepping closer. Someone else backing off. And right there, in that sequence, you can see hesitation. Not panic, hesitation. Like people were trying to figure out what was about to happen seconds before it actually did. That matters. Because hesitation means awareness. It means something was already off before things escalated. And if that's true, then the idea that this came completely out of nowhere starts falling apart. But here's where it gets complicated again. Alongside that clip, a statement begins circulating. Not official, but reportedly coming from someone close to the situation. It claims there was an attempt to de-escalate. That someone stepped in, tried to calm things down, tried to separate people. And according to that version, what happened next wasn't supposed to happen at all. Now, whether that's accurate or not, it introduces a new layer. Because if someone did try to stop it, then the focus shifts to what went wrong in that moment. Why didn't it work? What changed in those final seconds? At the same time, authorities release a limited update. Careful wording. No names confirmed publicly yet, but they acknowledge multiple individuals are being looked at, not just one person. That alone tells you this isn't being treated as a simple case. It suggests complexity, possibly multiple roles, different levels of involvement. And then comes the biggest twist so far. Reports begin suggesting that one of the individuals who was originally believed to be a bystander may have had a more active role than first thought. Nothing confirmed. No official charges tied to that claim yet. But the shift in narrative is real. People who were overlooked at the start are now being re-examined. That changes everything. Because it means early assumptions might have been wrong. It means the roles people played that night aren't as clear as they seemed. And it reinforces one key point: what you see in the first few hours is rarely the full picture. Meanwhile, those closest to the situation are moving differently now. Less emotion in public. More distance. You can feel it. The urgency to speak has been replaced by caution. And that usually happens when reality starts setting in, when people realize this isn't just a moment anymore. It's a case. Still, there are gaps that haven't been filled. That missing window of time? It's still unclear. No full footage has surfaced to explain it. No consistent account has closed that gap. And until it is, that space will continue to raise questions. There's also the issue of intent. Was this something building quietly beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment? Or was it a situation that spiraled out of control faster than anyone expected? Right now, both possibilities are still on the table. And that's where things stand. Partial clarity, new angles, but no complete truth. Because even with more footage, more statements, more attention, there's still something just out of reach. Something that hasn't been said, or hasn't been proven. And until it is, everything else remains unfinished. So now the focus turns to what happens next. Not just legally, but publicly. Who steps forward? Who stays silent? And what comes out when the pressure gets even heavier? If you've been following this, stay locked in. Because situations like this don't end clean. They unfold piece by piece. And every new detail changes how you see the last one. But here's the real question: when the full truth finally comes out, is it going to match what people have already decided to believe? Or is it going to force everyone to look at this completely differently? If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't a simple situation. There are too many gaps, too many voices, and too many details that still don't line up. So don't just watch this, pay attention to it. Because every new piece that comes out has the potential to change the entire story. Go ahead and hit subscribe, stay locked in, and turn on notifications. Not for hype, but for clarity. Because when updates drop, they won't come all at once. They'll come in pieces. And if you miss one, you miss how the whole picture shifts. And I want to hear from you. Not guesses, your perspective. Based on everything you've seen so far, do you think this was something that built up over time? Or something that spiraled out of control in a single moment? Because depending on that answer, the responsibility changes completely.